69 CE was a brutal, chaotic time in the Roman capital. Historians call this the Year of the Four Emperors, a 12-month period of violent civil wars and rapid succession that left the city highly volatile. At the center of this tension sat Emperor Vitellius. He had recently seized the throne, but his grip on the public was slipping fast, creating a tense, unpredictable atmosphere in the streets. To secure his power, Vitellius brought his legionaries down into the capital. These were battle-hardened men originating from the distant northern frontiers along the River Rhine. When they mingled with the local Roman civilians, the cultural friction was immediate. The locals deeply resented these northern outsiders. Pushed together in the dense, crowded markets of Rome, civilians found a covert way to show their contempt. They pulled out blades and began secretly slicing the leather belts off the waists of the legionaries. In a capital city already teetering on the edge of all-out war, this seemingly petty act of vandalism was the spark that ignited the powder keg. When the northern troops finally realized their belts were being severed, their reaction was immediate and absolutely explosive. They drew their weapons and turned on the crowds. Any Roman civilian caught holding a severed strap or a blade in the streets was butchered on the spot by the soldiers. To a modern observer, cutting a piece of leather looks like a harmless prank. It is incredibly difficult to understand why highly disciplined professional warriors would commit mass murder over a damaged wardrobe accessory. To make sense of this sudden, disproportionate bloodshed, we have to look past the violence of the riot and forensically examine the Roman military belt itself. In the ranks of the legion, this piece of equipment was known as the Balteus. The Baltius is the specific historical Latin term for the standard-issue Roman military belt. The heavy leather strap kept the soldier's tunic securely in place and ensured his primary weapon, the short sword, was always fastened precisely at his side for an immediate draw. But the most crucial element of its design hung right at the front. This was a protective apron made of several thick leather strips, heavily reinforced with metal fittings and studs. During chaotic close-quarters combat, this weighted apron swung over the body's most sensitive parts, acting as a crucial shield against low, sweeping strikes. The Baltius served as a foundational, highly engineered piece of a soldier's frontline survival gear. Yet the physical engineering of the belt only tells half the story. To the men wearing it, that leather carried an enormous, heavily guarded symbolic weight. Soldiers heavily customized their belts. They covered them in intricate silver plates and bronze engravings, turning the armor into a highly visible identification badge on a muddy, chaotic battlefield. Those shining metallic decorations broadcasted a warrior's rank, his unwavering commitment to Rome, and his lifelong bond to his specific legion. Because the belt represented a soldier's value, the Roman military weaponized it as a tool of discipline. If a legionary committed a crime or disgraced his unit, his commanding officers would force him to publicly remove his belt. The psychological impact of this punishment was devastating. Taking off the belt signaled an immediate suspension from duty, a deeply public humiliation, and a total loss of honor. The Baltius was the literal, physical manifestation of a Roman soldier's dignity. Stripped of it, a warrior lost his entire identity and status within the empire. Bringing that context back to the bloody streets of Rome in 69 CE, the actions of the locals take on a completely different meaning. When those civilians reached out with their hidden blades, they executed a calculated symbolic assassination of the soldier's deepest pride. To the battle-hardened men of the Rhine, severing their belt was the gravest possible offense. The disrespect was so severe that it demanded an immediate, violent preservation of their martial honor. The resulting slaughter in the marketplace erupted as a desperate, lethal defense of the exact symbol that created their military discipline in the first place. The uncontained violence of the riots had massive historical consequences. It terrified the public and rapidly accelerated the collapse of Emperor Vitellius's fragile grip on the Roman throne. This localized, street-level bloodbath exposed the deep, systemic fractures and unstable relationships threatening to tear the entire Roman Empire apart from the inside. We often think of ancient history as a series of grand political maneuvers and troop movements, but it is driven just as fiercely by deeply human concepts of identity, pride, and honor. Sometimes the fate of an emperor and the cohesion of the greatest military force on earth are bound together by a single sacred strap of leather.